Hey everyone, welcome to the next video in our series about Polkadot, Parachain slot auctions, and crowdloans. In this video, we're going to be going a little bit deeper into the details about what a Parachain slot auction is, what a crowdloan is. This is a process that many of you will be experiencing over the next few months when supporting different Parachain teams in the Polkadot ecosystem. It's a kind of a safer, newer approach to bootstrapping teams or supporting new startups in the Polkadot ecosystem and being able to get a share of their network for your contribution in DOT. Now let's dive in. Let's take a step back and think about an auction that you and I may be aware of, it kind of in the real world, in the traditional world, which is a auction of a home. In a standard auction, usually someone coming to the auction will be bidding from a single person's wallet or bank account, for example. So whatever they can afford is what they'll bid on that home. This person may be less competitive versus a larger opponent who might have more access to funding, maybe took out a loan to help with the auction, or any other situations that kind of make the competition difficult for the individual. Imagine if you could go to an auction, the same auction, but crowdfund with a group of neighbors or family or friends to help combine funds to make your bid in that auction much more competitive. Because as a group, of course, you can kind of crowdsource more funds and give you the ability to have a higher bid and more likely chance to win the auction. So in this case, the crowd would share kind of the appreciation of the asset or the home that you as the crowd won in the auction. Parachain slot auctions on Polkadot work in a similar way. You can actually bid in two ways. First, you can bid as a single account. So if you're a team that has access to a lot of funding as a team and you don't need the help of the crowd, then you might choose to go with option number one. But option number two, the crowd loan, is much more common, and what we'll be kind of talking about more in this video, which is using the crowd or crowdsourcing funds to help with the bid in this auction to win a slot to launch on Polkadot. So crowd loans are that second option. This is a new, ethical, and safer method for backing new startups that are building on Polkadot, and let's dig into this. So at the very kind of most basic level, this is what a crowd loan process includes. So you, as an individual or a contributor, will loan DOT, or the Polkadot token, to whatever parachain or multiple parachains that you want to support in their auction. In return, you earn crypto rewards in the native token of that parachain team. So as an example, ACA is the token for Akala, and there will be a ratio of DOT to ACA that you will be receiving as kind of a reward for your contribution to Akala. Obviously, the more that you contribute or lock in DOT, the more ACA or the more of the native token of any parachain that you can expect to get in return. And then after 2 years, which is the length of this slot, it's kind of like a lease that you might know, like an apartment or something. After 2 years, that original DOT that you locked or contributed is all returned back to you, and you keep the crypto returns that you got from the Parachain team. So the only thing that you're giving up as a contributor is the staking returns that you would have been getting on the DOT if you were staking it. So that it can kind of vary, but it's around 12-14% is what DOT staking or kind of yields in terms of interest. So that's kind of the one thing to keep in mind. So there's three ways to contribute in terms of DOT when you're contributing to a Parachain team. So first, you can contribute through the team's website, which is kind of the most decentralized manner of doing this because there's no third party you're relying on. The second, and potentially a little bit easier for people if you're used to using exchanges, would be to participate through an exchange like Kraken, Huobi, KuCoin, Binance. There'll be several that are kind of supporting this process. And then the third option is participating through a mobile wallet. So this could be something like Polka Wallet, Fearless Wallet, and there's also many others supporting Polkadot crowdloans. So what is the path to launch on Polkadot? First, you start with this crowd loan. This process can actually open up before the auction begins, and then the Parachain slot auction will begin at this point, where you can see here in the purple. Then in the teal here, if the team wins, then the Parachain actually can go on and launch on Polkadot, and all the applications and everything, all the activity can get started on top of that blockchain platform. And then the Parachain slot, like I said, will last for 2 years. And then after 2 years, all the DOT contributions from the community will be returned. And we'll go into each of these sections here. So first, the team will open up their crowd loan. So as you can see here, Parachain A is receiving dots here. Parachain B is receiving dots from their community, and then Parachain C is also receiving some dots from their community. So step one, crowd loan, and then step two is where we are now. So we're waiting on the Parachain slot auction to begin. So this is what the Parachain slot auction looks like. You've got a 7-day overall auction. Two days is the opening period. This is kind of like a warm-up. Nothing in these 2 days really matters in terms of the actual result of the auction. What really matters, and the most exciting part to watch, is the beginning of day 3. This is what begins the ending period, and then the end of day 7 is the end of the auction. So day 3 through 7 are the critical days for any team participating in the auction. So how it works is, whatever is in the team's crowd loan, you can't bid only a part of your crowd loan. You basically have to bid the maximum that you have in your crowd loan. It's like pushing all of your chips in, going all in. Let's say Parachain B at the beginning of day 3 had the most of any, so they had 10 million DOT. They open up day 3 and their initial bid is 10 million, but then about halfway through day 3, Parachain A comes in and kind of surprises everyone and raised their bid up to 50 million dots. So Parachain A is now in the lead at the middle of day 3. Then Parachain A actually stayed in the lead for the entire remainder of the auction, so through 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then the auction ends at the end of day 7. What happens at the end of day 7, though, is the blockchain actually randomly selects a time in the ending period, so between days 3 and 7. And in this case, the blockchain chose this time in day 4, where the red line is. So as we discussed, Parachain A was winning from the moment they put in this bid of 50 million through the end of day 7. So they had a high likelihood of actually being kind of the winner at the randomly selected time that was chosen. And of course, you can see here that they did win, because they were winning at the time when this randomly selected end time was chosen. So Parachain A wins the auction. Now let's go through the whole process in one look and just have a hypothetical example of what it would look like for Akala to win slot number 1 on Polkadot, just like Akala did on Kusama, winning slot number 1 on Kusama with the Karura Parachain. So the crowd loan would open up, people will begin contributing dots to the Akala crowd loan, and then that bid of 50 million DOT, as an example, would go in here, and the randomly selected time would choose Akala as the winner. Then what would happen is, since Akala won the slot, Akala would go on to actually launch on Polkadot, which is called the relay chain, and all the 50 million DOT would not go to the team at all. That all gets locked in Polkadot, so it's not accessible by the team, which is a great part of crowd loans because it helps reduce the risk of any sort of scamming or running away with money. What happens at the same time when Akala launches, there will be a period where token transfers can be enabled, and this is when ACA is actually distributed to all the original supporters of the crowd loan. So going back to here, these people, the green people, contributed dots, and then they're also all receiving these ACA for locking up those dots in support of Akala. Then Akala goes through the launch process, and just like I showed you in the beginning with the Parachain slots, Akala then is live on Polkadot, and all the DeFi applications can begin going live there. Akala then occupies that slot in its lease for 2 years, and then at the end of the 2 years, all of the data is returned back to the supporters kind of automatically through the Polkadot system. Now let's go through just a couple questions that come up quite often. So let's go back to Parachain B, who unfortunately didn't win that auction. Parachain B, if they don't win auction number 1, they can actually keep their crowd loan stays open. So if you see here at the top, so they can use everything in their crowd loan again to try to win auction number 2. If they needed to, they could also attempt again a 3rd time, a 4th time, and a 5th time. These slots are released in batches of 5. So if Parachain B wasn't able to win at the end of Parachain auction 5, then all the DOT in their crowd loan would be returned to the contributors of that crowd loan. And then one other question that often comes up is, okay, what happens at the end of 2 years? If all the DOT is returned, how does that team kind of stay alive? So there's 3 options for teams. So number 1 would be to host another crowd loan. So the whole process that we did here, after 2 years, we could do that again, get the community involved, get backing from the crowd, and then win an auction. Option number 2, in Akala's case, we have a Akala treasury. So we did a community event where the community contributed about $61 million in DOT to kind of bootstrap the Akala treasury. So the Akala treasury actually owns over $60 million in DOT. And what that allows Akala to do is prepare for 2 years from now so that we can then use our own funds in our treasury to help win another auction on Polkadot to renew the slot for after 2 years, and then continue using that funding to renew slots every 2 years to become kind of self-sustainable. And then third, a slightly more complicated topic, just probably deserves another video, would be to downgrade to a parathread. So this is kind of a pay-as-you-go model instead of a Parachain slot, which is more 24/7 access to contributing data to the blockchain. So we can maybe go over that another time. So in summary, we covered Polkadot, crowd loans, and Parachain slot auctions today. At the most basic level, here's what you need to know. So this is a process where you contribute or loan DOT tokens. Then in return for locking up your DOT, you earn crypto rewards in the native token of whatever Parachain or multiple Parachains that you're supporting. And then after 2 years, you can expect to get your original contribution back. So that's it. Thanks for taking the time to learn. Feel free to comment in the YouTube video, on Twitter, in our Discord. We're always happy to answer questions around this process and kind of enjoy talking about it. And until next time, thanks everybody. We'll talk soon.